Let's tank Skorpyron in the nighthold on Mythic difficulty. Now this fight is a lot similar to the normal and heroic encounters of the fight, but we personally found that the tether mechanic was a lot easier to work with if we kited the boss around the room every tether that he put down. This pretty much negates the full mechanic and you don't really need to worry about that as the main tank. And as the off tank tanking the ads, you just need to be aware of roughly where the tethers have been laid because they can affect you while you're tanking the ads, and you really don't want to be taking any extra damage from the tethers as well as tanking the ads that are going to come because it's just going to truck you too much. So just be mindful of where the tethers have been placed and just tank accordingly. So the first thing we're going to look at is the Call of the Scorpion ability on Mythic, and what this does is he will shoot like a bolt of like sonic boom kind of ability at the side where the scorpions are going to be, and he's going to summon 3 types of scorpions. You're going to have your crystalline scorpids, which are like the ones from normal and heroic, which are just going to put a stacking debuff on you called Energy Surge, which isn't too meaningful. Just make sure you got a cooldown running for every set of scorpions that come out. The next ad is called the Volatile Scorpid, and what this does, it's going to cause all Scorpids to swarm around it and increases their haste by 100%. This Scorpid also has a little bit more health than the other ones, so you need to make sure that you don't ever have 2 of these up, so just set it as a priority target. If you have an add-on, it'll normally mark this Scorpid for your DPS just to switch to, and you want to tank this on top of the boss just to get a bit of cleave damage going. And the final Scorpid is called Acid Maw Scorpid. It has roughly the same amount of health as the Crystal Scorpids, but what these Scorpids do is drop periodically a nature puddle on the ground. It's like a little green puddle, and they also drop one when they die. So it, because of the strat we're using where we kite the boss around the room, it isn't too meaningful. Just make sure you're not studding it because you want to be reducing as much damage taken as possible. If you need to, like for positioning purposes, feel free to stand in it and take a tick or 2 of it. It doesn't hurt too much, but because you're tanking like a load of scorpions which have 100% haste already, taking that little bit of extra damage could mean your untimely death. The only real bit of advice I could give you is when Call of the Scorpid is cast, you're looking around to see where the Sonic Boom animation's hitting, because wherever it hits is that set of scorpions will spawn. And if it hits an area where there isn't any scorpions or there's 1 or 2, it'll just summon more up from the ground, and you'll normally get like a big like haste ad, you'll get 1 green one, and then you'll get a load of little ones. And just make sure you're having some kind of cooldown on yourself when you're doing it, and you try to tank them on top of the boss and you're not getting hit by the tether, because they do hit pretty hard, especially with the big add up. Feel free to stun them once they're in position. I recommend not stunning them till they're actually in position because you're going to leave a lot of cleave damage, and most of DPS will be cleaving at this point. So next we're going to look at how the boss actually works for damage done to it and what this does throughout the fight. So when you start the fight, the boss will naturally take 25% reduced damage, and as you DPS him down, the damage deal to him will increase. Now, while you're DPSing him, it's going to change colours depending on how much armor you're chipping away. He'll go from blue to green to red. Now, this is important because in each of these phases on Mythic, he's going to drop a crystal. So normally on normal and heroic, he'd just drop blue crystals on the ground, but say he's in his red phase, he'll now drop red crystals. And when he's in his green phase, he'll drop green crystals. So firstly, the blue crystals, when they land on the ground, when he shoots them out, they're going to deal 1.5 mil arcane damage to all enemies upon impact. So just make sure you got good heals going at that time. The green crystals will deal 200k upon impact and then have a stacking dot upon all raid members. So while he's in green phase, you need to be like putting big heals out and putting a lot of DPS on the boss to push him quick. And the red crystals you just don't want to stand near because they pulse for 600k fire damage to enemies within 5 yards every 3 seconds. Now when Shockwave comes in, if you're near the red crystal, they're going to do a big explosion around him, so make sure every Shockwave, which is the ability where if you're not stood behind a crystal it's going to push you back, that you try not to stand behind the red ones because they blow up after a few seconds after Shockwave happens. If you do need to stand behind a red crystal, as soon as the Shockwave has ended, make sure you jet away from them because they're all going to explode. Now the blue ones don't explode, and when the green ones explode, the green debuff that I just spoke about does go away. So basically when Shockwave comes out, all your raiders just need to get behind one of these crystals so they don't get hit by it. If they get hit by it, they're going to get knocked back and pull a load of scorpions, and the scorpions come out pretty quickly, so you don't really want to be getting 2 or 3 set of Skorpions, or your tank won't be able to take the damage, either with externals and personals, just because of the amount of damage going out and the 100% haste buff that the big Skorpion does. So just make sure that every raider understands that they need to get behind a crystal, and understand that the red crystals are pretty much bad, and they need to try to find a blue or a green crystal. Now, after you've gone through the 3 phases, blue, green, and red, he's going to go into exoskeletal vulnerability, which basically for 15 seconds, you're going to be able to do 100% increased damage to him. Now, straight after this, pretty much you're going to get a shockwave, so just make sure people are getting behind the shards as soon as the phase ends, so they don't knock back and obviously pull more skeletons. And once he ends this phase, he's going to also get infused exoskeleton, which basically every time he regains his armor back to blue, he's going to get a 10% increased damage buff, and this effect stacks. So you're going to get this roughly twice in the fight, I believe, so it's an extra 20% at the end. So he deals more damage near the end of the fight rather than near the start of the fight. And his final ability, Focus Blast, is he's just going to face a random player in the raid. It can be a tank, healer, or DPS, and he's just going to do a big shockwave and hit that person or anyone stood in it for 3 million arcane damage. And this is going to stun any target in it for 6 seconds, and if you get hit by multiple, the duration of the stun increases. Now, it's important that none of your raiders are really getting hit by this, because 6 seconds of losing DPS is really bad, 6 seconds of not having a healer is really bad, and obviously if one of your tanks gets hit, it's pretty much a wipe, because you can't keep a tank alive on a mythic fight for 6 seconds if they're stunned. There's just no way about it, even with externals for the most part, especially if the little Skorpions are out. Anyway guys, thanks for watching my video. Please like, comment and subscribe for more mythic guides, and I'll see you on my next video.